Hey everybody, Scott Spreitzer here, DocSports.com with a report for Saturday, August 4th, 2018. College football previews continue from a Vegas betting perspective, and we're talking about the Sun Belt in just a moment. First, a quick note. Hope you were with us last night, and I appreciate those who were with our big 7-star play main event on the Boston Red Sox, who went off as an underdog and got the win 4-1. Great night by Rick Porcello. It was nice to see management let him finish the game. And he did just that, and they beat the Yankees by a final score of 4-1. Real quick note over at DocSports.com, if you've yet to become a member, it's easy to do. You click on the link below the video and set yourself up for a free $60 account. I think you'll be glad you did on Saturday with football season just about upon us. We had the, of course, Hall of Fame game the other night, and a big slew of games taking place this coming Thursday. Check those out along with the college football and NFL regular season early bird discounted packages, preseason pro football package, all available right now only at DocSports.com. We're happy to be exclusive, and don't miss out because Saturday's baseball, after last night's big 7-star play, after 3-0 the last 3 days, will be available on Saturday after 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. Another big play going on Saturday's slate. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to the Sun Belt. Listen, from a betting perspective, whether you like this conference or not as a fan, bottom line is, man, it all pays the same when you cash those tickets. And although I talked about, I believe, 4 out of the 5 power conferences, we are going to save the old SEC for another week or two down the road. Today, Sun Belt, 10 teams now in the Sun Belt, and finally, the Sun Belt Conference woke up and will have a championship game at the end of the season after having multiple co-champions over the last several years in this conference. Will finally have one individual team that will be crowned conference champion at the end of this Sun Belt season. 2018, really a 3-team race on paper, and according to the odds makers, Arkansas State in the weaker West, Troy and Appalachian State in the tougher East. Arkansas State still with Justice Hansen at quarterback. I've got them power rated, by the way, 8.5 points better than any team in the West in their division on a neutral field. Again, the offense is loaded. They do need to limit some turnovers. You'll remember Hansen threw 16 picks last year. They committed, I believe it was 25 turnovers overall. They do get 4 starters back up front. They should have a strong ground game to go with Hansen and his arm. The defense looks, well, they lose a big part, I guess I should say, of the pass rush. Only 5 returning starters on defense. They allowed about 26 points per game last year. The secondary, what they got to do is get a handle on some of the deep passes that they gave up during the course of last season. Should be a little bit better in the secondary. Not so sure overall. Probably about the same overall as far as the entire defense is concerned. And I'm looking at their schedule, and they've got a tough 2-game stretch on September 29th. They're at Georgia Southern. Going to talk about them in a bit. And that's followed 10 days later by a date with Appalachian State. I believe 1 conference loss is likely for Arkansas State, 2-2 in non-conference play. They should represent the West when it comes to the championship game, but around 5-4 is where the odds are for this team, and I just think it's a little bit too chalky for me as far as plunking down money on Arkansas State to win the conference. Again, 5-4 is where they should be, but it's chalky. Troy and Appalachian State, they should battle it out in the East. As I mentioned, the tougher division of the two. Troy listed at 9-5, Appalachian State at 5-2. Inexperience at quarterback for both teams could hurt. Hard to believe, by the way, that Appalachian State quarterback Taylor Lamb is finally gone, and no Brandon Silver is going for Troy this year. Troy will get better play from the offense, obviously, as the season progresses and they get used to their new signal caller. So, outside the conference losses early to Boise State and at Nebraska are likely. But again, those are non-conference games, and they may get better sooner than a lot of people think offensively because you got a nice offensive-minded head coach in Neil Brown. Defensively, they're going to get Vic Koenig back. He's been here before. I think they'll be good up front talking about Troy. They had a bunch of sacks, almost over 3 dozen sacks, 41, 42 sacks last year. Secondary has to improve. They've got some glitches in the secondary from last year. And they have 2 big November dates that could decide Troy's conference fate. November 10th at Georgia Southern and November 24th at Appalachian State. And that will bring us to Appalachian State. As stated, no more Taylor Lamb at quarterback for this team. They do have a real good running game with Jalen Moore back, and he's a beast of running back. But no Lamb, that means they're going to lose nearly 600 yards rushing from that position. So that's going to have to be made up. And you couldn't get your hands on Lamb as far as when he dropped back to pass last year, able to escape pressure, extend passing plays when they did pass. And opposing defenses just couldn't lay on a hand on him. However, even with Lamb gone, I am a little more concerned with the Appalachian State defense. 5 of their top 9 tacklers are gone from last year's defense. The defensive line should be stout, though, against the run again. Linebackers, mediocre, so-so. And they do have a strong secondary, so maybe they can make up and help out a little bit with the linebacking unit being, mediocre, so-so, like I said. They've got a tough spot, by the way, does App State, at Georgia Southern on a Thursday, just 5 days after hosting Louisiana. It's made a little bit more tough because you've obviously got that newfangled triple option offense of Georgia Southern. And I mean new because there's going to be a few more looks out of it. They'll probably run a lot of it out of the pistol now that they got the new offensive coordinator. So we have Arkansas State going at 5-4, Troy 9-5, App State 5-2. And those are the 3 teams that will likely vie for the conference title out of 2 different divisions this season. I think App State, by the way, probably goes 6-2 in conference play, and then they have 4 of the last 6 games coming on the road. That's going to be tough to overcome for Appalachian State. But again, 5-4 Ark State, 9-5 Troy, App State at 5-2. Then you got UL Monroe and Georgia Southern, both around 12-1, 14-1 in that neighborhood. After that, things start to fall off a little bit as far as teams with a shot to win the conference title. UL Monroe gets eliminated for me as a possible dark horse. Once again, mainly because they're going to be all offense, 0 defense. At least they have to prove it to me that they're going to be a little bit more stout on the defensive side of the football before I could jump on them and call them a definite dark horse. Plus, Monroe, by the way, has 5 road games in a 7-game stretch during the course of the season. So my official, if you will, dark horse going around 12-1 to 14-1 and shop around would be Georgia Southern. 9 returning defensive starters. Stop unit should be better with Scott Sloan hired as the new DC, and they should get a little bit more rest than they got for the first half of last year thanks to that newfangled triple option. We're used to see an option out of Georgia Southern from years ago up until now, but there will be some wrinkles. And, you got Bob DeBest coming over as the offensive coordinator. I think this team, this program, and Chad Lunsford, the head coach, hit a couple of home runs by bringing in Scott Sloan as the new DC, Bob DeBest as the new offensive coordinator. You might remember him from his New Mexico days. Speaking of the head coach Lunsford, he took over midseason last year, and what happened is at least they looked like they had a clue and could be in a lot of games. They won a couple of games along the way after he took over. Didn't like the way they finished up the season against Coastal Carolina, but I do believe this team was on the right track for the most part. Got a quarterback by the name of Shai Wertz who will run the option behind a very good, expected to be very good offensive line, strong running back surrounding the quarterback. Defensively, 16 of their top 17 tacklers return, and they've got experience in the secondary. They've got to improve in the secondary, quit getting picked apart, come up with a few more INTs. Over-under, by the way, on this Georgia Southern team, I thought I'd bring up 6.5 wins. And even if they go just 4-4 in conference play, not only a big improvement over last year, but I think at 4-4 they can top that wins total because I have them going 3-1 outside of conference play. So while this is a 3-team race, let's just call it the way it is, I do believe we can call Georgia Southern a dark horse in the Sun Belt Conference. After that, Georgia State and ULL, they're in a 30-1 range to win the conference. South Alabama around 50-1. Coastal Carolina, Texas State, both around 100-1. Top betting spot in week 1 of the Sun Belt for me, playing against South Alabama, playing on La Tech, Louisiana Tech in a non-conference game. La Tech from CUSA, about a 10-point road favorite. And look, as far as South Alabama is concerned, you got 7 back returning starters on both offense and defense. Redshirt freshman, though, a quarterback likely to get the start. It's going to take a little time, and they were simply pathetic on their 3rd down conversion rate in 2017. So I expect it takes a little bit of time for that offense to get better. Louisiana Tech won the game last year in Ruston by a final score of 34-16. I expect more of the same and a win and cover by a solid La Tech team out of Conference USA, a conference we are still yet to preview, and will do so in the next week or two. All right, free baseball pick in just a moment. You did just get our plays. We do think it's a 3-team race, and the odds certainly point that out in the Sun Belt Conference between Arkansas State, Appalachian State, and Troy. The dark horse, if you need one, if you want one, at 12-1 to 14-1 in that range, Georgia Southern for us. All right, free pick in baseball for Saturday in just a second. First, a quick note. As mentioned, we cashed that big 7-star main event yesterday. Those plays now 44-23 in baseball going back the last couple of seasons. Got a big Saturday in baseball going. It'll be available after 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, only at DocSports.com. That'll be our premium plays. We look to take a 3-0 run the last 3 days into Saturday's card. Free Major League Baseball for Saturday. We're going to go with the D-backs, the Diamondbacks, about $1.35 right now over San Francisco. The Giants going with the lefty, Andrew Suarez. And he just looks like he's having, those post-All-Star break issues, rookie issues, I should say. He's been knocked around in his last 3 starts, hasn't looked real comfortable. And this will be the 3rd time that Arizona has faced Suarez, the lefty, this season. That's an advantage, obviously, for the D-backs and their offense. We'll back Arizona. Buckholt's going to go for the Diamondbacks. More of a play, though, against Suarez with the young pitcher beginning to struggle over the second half of the season. The Diamondbacks, your free play. Again, premium plays over at DocSports.com in baseball after 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Don't forget those early bird specials in both college football, the NFL, and the NFL preseason package at DocSports.com. I'm Scott Spreitzer. If you like what you see, click on that thumbs up key and also be sure to subscribe. We appreciate those who have done so thus far. We'll be right back here Sunday morning, 4 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Pacific. Let's put Saturday in the win column. We'll talk to you then.